Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome to a very special Steelers preview podcast. Not only is it Wednesday, but it is becoming an annual tradition where the three of us break down the Steelers 2025, in this case, regular season schedule. So we're going to give our predictions, all that fun stuff. Joining me, as always, Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. What's up, Dave?
Hey, I'm ready to do this.
All right, Bryan, well, welcome.
I love this. I love this show every year, and I'm so excited. And I've done something different this year, fellas. I don't know. I try to stay away from most of the spoilers. I got a couple, but I'm waiting for Jeff and Dave to tell me what the schedule is. I thought it'd be interesting doing it that way.
All right. So in the past, we've all had some time to kind of look at, digest the schedule, and then we kind of go through week by week and give our picks. But because Bryan decided to do this, and I'm fine with him doing this, what we're going to do is we're going to do a week by week breakdown. We'll talk about potential storylines, things that could maybe play into this, and then we'll give our predictions for that game. And then at the very end, Dave will tally everything up and see what our end of the season, way too early predictions are for the 2025 Steelers. So let's get this off running. And there was a lot of leaks and a lot of rumors out there. Dave and Bryan pointed this out on Bad Language, and Dave did it again on the Scobro show. There was one that said that the Steelers were going to host the Dolphins in week one. They can't host in week one because of the Pirates schedule. So we knew they were going to be on the road in week one, and they are. They're going to the Big Apple. The New York Jets, 1 o'clock kickoff, week one. That's Sunday, September 7th. And boy, are there some storylines here. And this is, yes, if Aaron Rodgers does play for the Steelers, that'll be a huge storyline, but also the Justin Fields factor. And Justin Fields going to the New York Jets. There should be a lot of juice here. This game, again, will be at MetLife Stadium. Dave, what do you think about the season opening game?
Well, I think, although Bryan and I both predicted the Steelers to go to the Jets on our prediction show, I actually get the victory on this one because I picked it to just be a 1 o'clock game on Sunday where Bryan went Monday Night Football. It is 1 o'clock. I like this to start, but it's another one of those things. Hey, you can't. I mean, there's no. It's not like you're going against a playoff team. Actually, going against a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 15 years. So it's the Justin Fields thing. It's the Aaron Rodgers things potentially. It's intriguing. It's a good one to have to start. Yet I don't think it's that daunting. But yet you can't take it lightly either.
All right, Bryan. Now that you know, what's your take on week one?
Well, just like Dave said, this is a juicy matchup. It makes a good 1 o'clock game. It makes for great storylines, especially just Justin Fields alone makes it great. But when you throw in the fact that it's a guy that was told he wasn't wanted, that could possibly come back, we don't know if that's going to happen. It would be so intriguing. I think that's just going to be phenomenal. And I just hope Fireman Ed has a bad day. So, but I do want to say this. Dave and I talked about this the other day. This completes the AFC for openers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The previous team to fall, the 15th team to fall, was the Cincinnati Bengals back in 2022. I believe it was 21 or 22. And then they have never played the New York Jets on opening weekend. And now they do. So they have played every AFC team to start their season now.
For me, I think this is the NFL saying, hey, Mr. Rodgers, we know what you're doing. We think that you're going to be playing. We want to have you in the spotlight as early as possible. So I am kind of surprised that this game is a 1 o'clock kickoff and not a standalone. But nonetheless, I can also see them hedging their bets and saying if he doesn't play, there's still some storylines. There's still some juice in this matchup. Unfortunately, we'll probably get like Spiro Ditas on the call or some F crew from CBS. But still, All right, let's do our predictions. We have no idea what the spread is. It's way too early for that. That'll be coming out probably this week. So, Dave, how do you want to go? Did you want a typical rotation here? How do you want to do this?
Oh, well, I already wrote it down just like last year. So we're going to do the same order as last year. Bryan, me, Jeff.
All right, Bryan, go ahead.
I'm not going to be generous this year, but I will give the Steelers a win on opening weekend. That doesn't exactly mean too much of anything because we've seen the Steelers win on opening weekend and then have a rough go after that and lose and win the division over the years. So let's say I'm going to give them a win, though.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, so am I, just because, I mean, it's so hard to predict this right now. You don't really know if the big storyline is going to be the big storyline or not, but it's the opener. It's the Jets. Get it done against the Jets.
I do. I think that even though this game will probably be a lot closer than we would like, I think the Steelers are able to go into MetLife and claim victory. It's the first seat game for Aaron Glenn, the new head coach of the New York Jets. And I'm sure there's going to be some rust there for some players as they get acclimated. We'll see how Justin Fields does there with his new home, but we all like the Steelers to come away with a win in week 1. So let's go to week 2. There might be some post-traumatic stress disorder here because the last time the Steelers hosted the Seahawks in week 2, well, that was 2019, and Ben Roethlisberger was lost for the year with an elbow injury, but that's who the Steelers play. 1:00 kickoff, Acrisure Stadium. This is September 14th. Yeah, Dave, what do you think about this game, Seattle week 2?
Yeah, you mentioned it right there. The last time they had their home opener in week 2 hosting Seattle was 2019, and that was yikes.
Yep.
So, hey, this is the extra game. This is the 17th game when they added one to the season. So this is their, 2-year off NFC foe that finished at the same place as you did in the division. And so you get Seattle at home again. The DK Metcalf thing, they like their storyline. So, I mean, there you go.
All right. Brian, what do you think about Seattle in week 2?
Yeah, I like this as well. And it's funny because I was actually thinking because of the DK Metcalf thing that this would be a good go for number 2. Then for week 2, but I moved it around and I decided for different things, but so I cannot claim victory on this. But it's interesting since they did this 17th game. They played the Seahawks now. This will be twice that they have the Seahawks, and they've had the Eagles twice. So the extra game is mostly for the Birds. The other team was the Packers, but so it seems like the same foes keep coming up.
I think the Steelers and Seahawks is a fitting home opener for Pittsburgh. Seattle seems to be a team that's kind of reestablishing themselves, we'll put it that way. And so I think this is, again, storylines, DK Metcalf revenge game, if you want to call it that. But let's do our predictions now. Brian, what do you think?
I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to go with a win as well. And something Dave and I discussed the other day, the home opener is kind of like a high school or a college team scheduling homecoming. And it doesn't mean that it's an easy out, because I was thinking the Colts here, and no team's an easy out, but I think it's a better matchup than having your home opener be against a juggernaut San Francisco 49ers like it was 2 years ago.
Okay, so you have a win. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, this is tricky because when you go through and look at, I like to try to space things out or try to figure out exactly how things are going to go. But for some reason, this should be a defensive matchup. It really should. But I'm going to give the advantage to the team that's playing at home against the West Coast team that's coming across and playing a 1 o'clock game. So,
did you say win?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with win. Sorry.
I think the Steelers win this one as well. I don't think Sam Darnold is the answer. I think he found himself in a very good position last year in Minnesota with a great team, a great coach. I'm banking on him not being that guy. And so therefore I'll take the Steelers defense going against Seattle's offense. And like I said, I feel like they're reestablishing themselves up there in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm going to go with the win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. So week 3, they go back on the road for another 1 o'clock kickoff. They go up to the great Northeast to go Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. A 1 o'clock kickoff, Steelers at Patriots week 3. Dave, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, this is It's very interesting because, new head coach, Mike Vrabel, you really don't know what to expect from this team this year. And you've got to go up there. That's one that's tough to tell now, but you'll probably have a much better idea, even though it's only week 3. What kind of team are you actually looking at again when you're looking at the Patriots? So this is an intriguing time to get that one. I like that it's, you don't have any playoff teams in the first 3 games from last year. So that's nice, but it also can be a little bit scary.
Okay. Brian, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I love this matchup. It would be so much nicer to know unequivocally who the Steelers quarterback is going to be. But even if it's Mason Rudolph, man, I think I'm going to go with a win here as well.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten to our predictions yet, but that's fine, Brian.
Oh, sorry. I'm economizing, Jeff.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, New England is a crapshoot. They had a good draft. Most people would say they had a great haul. They did well in free agency. They have most people would consider Drake May a franchise quarterback, yet there are still some questions there. Dave brought up Mike Vrabel's first year as the head coach there in New England. Is it going to take some time? I like that they're going there in week 3 and not late in the season when you think about the weather up there in Foxborough, a 1:00 kickoff. Let's do our predictions. Brian, you said you think a win, yes?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and continue to say a win.
All right. Dave, what about you?
Honestly, are the Steelers going to start 3-0? I don't think they are. I just don't think that's the team that they are this year. And because it's such a wild card, you could say the same thing in week 1 with New York with the new coach. But to me, I've got a lot of respect for Vrabel. I'm going to put this one down as a loss.
Okay. I have this one being a win. I think the Steelers, this 2025 schedule sets up very similar to 2024 in terms of front half versus back half. We'll talk about that as we get there. And I also think there is a stumbling block coming up, and that's in week 4. We know week 4, that is obviously where the Steelers played the Minnesota Vikings at Croke Park in Dublin. That is a 9:30 a.m. Eastern time kickoff. And so that's an early morning game. I'm actually excited for that. And this is going to be interesting to try and figure out. Dave, what do you think about this game? We knew about this since Tuesday, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the 9:30 kickoff, actually, although I don't know, 8:00 to have to make sure I'm getting the inactives article and everything. That'll be a whole new thing. But yeah, I mean, 9:30. This will be interesting on me because it'll be the anniversary when my mom passed away. But with playing internationally, I don't like that it was the Vikings because that's who they played the last time. But last time they were the away team. To this game, I know we're not giving our prediction yet. I think it's going to come down to if the Steelers go early in the week or if they go late in the week. Jeff mentioned it on Let's Ride. He's exactly right. If they wait until the very end to try to get over there, I think that's foolish. If they do that, then I already know what I'll predict for that. But that'll be whenever we go to actually make the predictions during the season.
All right, Brian, what are your thoughts on this game, which we knew about since Tuesday?
Well, I tell you what, actually, we've known about this game. It seems like the Vikings popped up a couple weeks ago in our minds. And so, I've kind of wrote this down as the Vikings just a couple weeks ago. But, I think it's a cool matchup. I think the Croke Park thing is going to be just phenomenal. There's going to be a lot of Steeler fans there. But I agree with you both. I don't think the NFL is going to let them do what they did last year. And that's one of the few I don't rip on Mike Tomlin a lot, but I think there's a lot of stubbornness to him. And I hope he learns from that experience 12 years ago. That was just that was just foolish to try to keep it business as usual when this is not a business as usual type of thing. I'm wondering if the Vikings are going to try to go as late as possible this time around, and as late as they're allowed to. And the reason I'm saying that is they're going to be there a long time.
Yeah.
So
Well, I would think that's more reason to go early and get acclimated. So, because they're going to be there for 2 weeks, might as well actually get there as soon. I don't know. That's an interesting point, though.
yeah, I'm thinking different. It's like, hey, so we're not gone that long, but who knows? So I like the matchup. I'm just glad it's not the Packers because I want the Steelers to have that as a home game, and that has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. That has everything to do with the fact that that's the gate that you want, and the Steelers were blessed to have it 2 years ago as well.
So just a reminder to everyone, this does count as a home game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is not at home, obviously, but yet they are the home team. So you can imagine they'll wear their black jerseys and all that stuff. And so that, just so you know, this counts as a home game. So let's do our predictions. Brian, do you see this being a win or a loss?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to follow the week 4 conundrum that they've had. And I hope I didn't steal Dave's thunder here, but I'm going to go ahead and put it down as a loss because it is it's still on the road, and I have them going 3-0. If the schedule was tougher, I would have probably made it a win, but I can't see this being a 4-0 team. And I also feel like Minnesota is a lot better than a lot of people think, because I don't think there's much of a chasm losing Sam Darnold, like you guys just said. And I think McCarthy will step in very nicely there, and you still have all those pieces around you.
All right, so Brian has it with a loss. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, that's the issue. The week 4 thing. I've talked about it. They have a losing record in week 4, and they have not won in week 3 and week 4 since well before Mike Tomlin. They're not 2-0 over those weeks at any time. Now they've had seasons that they had bye weeks is one of those weeks. But notice I had the Steelers taking a loss in week 3. I tell you what, Irish Renegade is going to win out. You're going to see a massive Steelers presence there, and you're going to have, because it's a home game, you should be able to get to have those home kind of things that you would get at Acrisure, but in Croke Park instead. I think this is a game that this team should be playing up for more than anything. They should understand the importance of that country within the organization because of the ownership, and you got to find a way to win this one.
Okay, I'm going to go with a loss. And it's not just the week 4 stuff. I think that the Minnesota Vikings are the best team that they have on the schedule to date. When you think about the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Patriots, they are not top tier teams. The Vikings are a really good football team, and they got better in the offseason. So I think that the Vikings are going to be a really good test for the Steelers. The hope is that it's really competitive and close, but I just don't see them winning this one. There's a lot of factors involved, and so I have the Steelers suffering their first loss. Now, the Steelers have an option. Every team that travels overseas gets to choose, when do you want your bye week? Do you want it the week after? Do you want it later? And the Steelers elected to have it after. So week 5, the Steelers have a bye week. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a mini bye here. For those watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. On the audio side, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. All right, Steeler fans, we're coming off the bye week. Week 5 is the Steelers' bye week, which is really early. Before we move on, Dave, thoughts on the bye week being in week 5?
Well, we could wait till after the bye week. We got to recap because remember, we do this in quarters as well.
Sure.
So I'll just say this. We all have the Steelers 3-1 through the first quarter.
Okay.
All right. Bye week in week 5. Don't like it. I really don't. If the NFL would have said, the Steelers would have said, hey, we don't have to have our bye right then if you give us Monday Night Football coming out of it, maybe they would have. But instead, that's when the bye is. You're going to get a mini bye partway through the season eventually. Sorry to spoil that, Brian. You are going to get a mini bye in there at some point in the season. But yeah, a week 5 bye is not ideal, but I also get why you get it coming back from Ireland.
Brian, thoughts on the bye week?
Yeah, I know. I kind of think it makes sense because there is a whole lot of fatigue to that. Again, in week 3, they're on the road, but they're not. New England's not going across the country, so that's not too bad. Yeah, I don't really think it's that bad as far as travel when you don't have to go that far. So I'm thinking with this trip, and I've done this trip overseas, and I know it takes me both times, it takes me a good 2 weeks to really get over that jet lag and get back to it. So I'm very in favor of the bye because I don't think it's easy returning from overseas.
Every year we talk about where the bye week lands, and there's never been a bye week that comes at a bad time. Like, oh man, I wish we didn't have the bye week. I mean, typically there's an injury and there's jet lag.
That's not true.
What?
2020.
Oh, well.
When it gets thrust on you on like Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Well, that was different.
Yeah, that's the only time. But yeah, that was the absolute crap. Yes. Sorry.
All right. So coming out of the bye week, week 6, the Steelers are back at Acrisure Stadium. So coming off of that trip in the bye week, they are at home, and it's their first divisional game where they host the Cleveland Browns at 1:00. So unlike last year when they didn't have any divisional games until the back half, they do start to have those sprinkled in sooner, week 6. This is October 12th. Dave, what do you think about this first divisional game?
Yeah, it's funny because when Brian and I were predicting the schedule, it was fun. We did it on bad language. If you didn't catch it, sorry about that, but it was a whole lot of fun. We both put a divisional game in the first 3 weeks of the season because we wanted to make a point of don't have them all loaded up at the very end. Now, they didn't get one in the first 3 weeks, but you are getting a couple here early on. I like seeing them spread out. Last year was just so weird. I didn't care who it was. I didn't care where it was. As long as you got a couple of them before the end of October, I was happy.
Okay, Brian?
I really like this. I think that's a nice, clean game to go and play right after that long break. And, typically Steeler teams do well coming off of the bye. And when is isn't Cleveland in week 5? When is Cleveland away overseas?
That's true. Cleveland is play. A lot of people said, "Oh, they're not going to play the Browns in week 6 because they're going to have their bye coming back from week 5." Cleveland comes back and doesn't have the bye and has to play Pittsburgh coming back from overseas. I didn't realize that until just now, Brian. You're right.
Yeah, because I was thinking that was mocked to week 5. Yeah, I think that's really good. I just like what I was saying about the Steelers and glad they're having a bye. This really cements what I'm going to say when we get to my turn.
Is this the Kenny Pickett returns to Acrisure Stadium as the starting
quarterback?
Make the
roster first.
Well, I know. Or is it Joe Flacco? Or
You're right.
Yeah. We don't know. We don't know. So this is going to be interesting. I like that the week 6 game is when they're starting to get some of the AFC North games involved. I didn't realize about Cleveland being overseas and coming back and having to travel to Pittsburgh. That's interesting. So let's do some predictions. Brian, what do you got?
Well, I always worry about Joe Flacco against the Steelers for some reason, but I worry about Joe Flacco more when he's thrust upon you, like he was in week 4 last year when the Indianapolis Colts had him come in early in that game and they weren't ready. They weren't ready for that adjustment going from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco. So I like the fact that if it is Flacco, I hope he starts. If not, I would love to see Kenny Pickett back in Acrisure. I think that would be absolutely amazing. I would love to see Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, I'd like to see whoever they throw out there. It's still the Browns, and when it's Brown, flush it down. W.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, I'm taking the W here as well, especially the Steelers are coming off a bye, and the Browns are coming back from England.
Yeah.
So that's right there says it to be enough, especially at home. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making sure that I didn't screw that up. So they've got it's only a bus trip to Pittsburgh at least, but after coming back from England, they've got to go to Pittsburgh. We're right. They play the Vikings in week 5. That was already announced. I don't have to try to look that up somewhere, do I? That's got to be it. So it just seems weird. So yeah, that's why I'm taking the win.
I'm right there with you, Dave, Brian, both all the reasons you gave and many more. I'll take the Steelers with the win coming off the bye week. And then comes the short week. The Steelers then in week 7 go and to travel to the Cincinnati Bengals on Thursday Night Football in week 7. This is going to be a tough test of back-to-back division games. So on October 12th, they play the Browns at home. October 16th, they go to the Bengals. Amazon Prime Video, Paycor Stadium. Dave, what do you think about this back-to-back?
Well, normally it's like the Steelers do pretty well in Cincinnati, but AFC North teams are some of the best teams playing at home on Thursday. I mean, Cleveland at home on Thursdays. I mean, they have one loss. I don't think the Ravens ever lost. I'd have to look up and try to find my spreadsheet where I had that all from last year, but I don't have last year's games put in there. So they're really tough there. So this one's is a tougher matchup, but as a season ticket holder, I like it much better that the Thursday night game is not one that's in Pittsburgh, or at least this one is not one that's in Pittsburgh. Don't want to spoil anything for Brian.
Brian, what's your takeaway on the Thursday night game?
First of all, don't worry about spoiling anything for me. I'm fine. Thursday night game, good to get it out of the way. I love the fact that they usually do well back-to-back playing Ohio teams, but this is a good Cincinnati Bengals team. You're going to have to play them sometime. I just like the fact that you've got back-to-back AFC North games early on. So last year again was brutal.
Who's your pick? What's your pick, Brian?
Oh, I'm going to have to go with Cincinnati though on this. And it's just that Joe Burrow led team. I think he is a lot more phenomenal than most people do. I wish he was in black and gold. He's the kind of guy I would have probably liked if he was in the NFC. I would just say that. People will disagree with me on that, and I get it. But there's so much firepower there. If they can just, they're going to have to score points to beat this team. And it's, can they score points? That defense is bad, but are they going to get any better? We'll see.
All right. He has a loss. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, so do I. I mean, last year the Steelers got to get the Bengals both times that they lost the second one, but both times they played the Bengals last year, they had them on extra rest, where they had a mini bye beforehand or coming off the bye or something like that. It wasn't coming off the bye because that was Washington last year, but they had, it was a little bit of an extended time there. So to me, this is now the opposite, and they've got on a short week, go to Cincinnati. Those are tough games to win in division, particularly in this division on the road on Thursdays. That's why I have a loss.
I agree with you guys. I think just the short week, it's going to be difficult. And I know that they'll, it's division games. It seems like every year they have a division game on the Thursday night after another division game, which seems to be extremely challenging. I have this as a loss as well. And so after another mini bye, after the Thursday night game, they host the Green Bay Packers in week 8, but it's a Sunday night game. So this is going to be on NBC. Green Bay Packers at the Pittsburgh Steelers, Acrisure Stadium. This will be October 26th. Dave, what's your thoughts on the Green Bay primetime game?
Well, first of all, Mr. Bryan Anthony Davis knocked this one out of the park. He picked the week. He picked the opponent. He picked Sunday Night Football. He had it spot on of what this game was going to be. I thought it was going to be on Sunday Night Football as well. I had it 2 weeks later. Brian gets a big W for this one. It made sense for this game to be around the middle of the season and in prime time. You didn't want it too late, but you didn't want it too early. It was the right spot to put this game, especially since, I'll just call him Nostradamus, not the way he calls himself when it comes to that. In order for him to predict that, this was a slam dunk.
All right, Brian, you got it right. What are your thoughts?
Wow, I'm proud of that. I really am. It just made sense for all the reasons. And even without the specter of Aaron Rodgers, this seemed like a game that the Pittsburgh Steelers were trying to protect. I guarantee you the organization was whispering in the ears of the schedule makers and saying, please don't put this in Ireland. we want this gate. We want this gate, and we know it's going to be a Sunday night football game. They played Sunday the last time they hosted the Green Bay Packers in the year they were supposed to was 8 years ago in 2017, and that was on Sunday Night Football as well. But the kid from UCLA, and I can't remember his name, Bryce, I forget what his name was, but he was the quarterback at the time, and it was not Aaron Rodgers, because that's when Aaron Rodgers was hurt. That's when this Packer team was playing poorly, but that's when we got the Tony Toe Tap game too. So they like putting this game in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. They do it again. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah. This could be Aaron Rodgers' last chance of playing his former team. And so they'll probably drum that up big time if he is indeed the quarterback of the Steelers. And I just want to say, like, it is really difficult to, and Brian mentioned this earlier, it's really difficult to predict anything when you really don't know who the quarterback for the Steelers is going to be. But we're going to do this nonetheless. Brian, your prediction for Packers Steelers Sunday Night Football.
All right. I want to be honest with myself and everybody. I think Green Bay is one of those teams with Minnesota and with Detroit that they're being slept on. I also think that Green Bay, with Jordan Love being hurt a good bit of the season, even though they had, great backup play by Willis, I'm still going to say that I think this is a tough one to call because we don't know whether Aaron Rodgers is going to be there or not. And I'm going to go ahead and just call it a loss because this seems like a team that is going to take some on the chin. If I go back to last year, a game against the Cowboys was a game they should have won on Sunday Night Football early in the season, but it ended up being a disappointment. I'm thinking that this is going to be a 3-point loss. It's going to go down to the wire, but I'm going to hand them the loss here.
All right, Dave, what about you?
To me, this is regardless of who's playing quarterback. I know that changes a ton. That's what makes this tough. I mean, can I ask you guys, since it is the Packers game, are you kind of doing this thinking it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, or are you thinking that it's not?
I'm thinking that it is.
I'm thinking it is too.
I'm thinking it is too. Yeah, but I can't guarantee it for this game.
You're right. You're right. To me, it's about the Steelers being at home in prime time, coming off a mini bye. That's a good recipe for them, and that's why I'm going to call it a win.
I'm with you, Dave. I was thinking about, the mini bye. They're going to be fired up, especially if they do lose to Cincinnati. They're going to want to get back on the right track. I have them winning this game.
And they might even be underdogs at home.
Yeah, they very well could be, depending on how things go. So the Packers, Dave and I have wins. Brian has a loss. Now they stay at home. Their first back-to-back home games of the season, not counting Croke Park, mind you. And this is a Sunday game, 1:00, and it's at home against the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts, at one point, the Steelers owned the Colts, but in recent history, it's been a little bit of reversal. And last year, the Colts got the best of the Steelers in Indianapolis. Dave, what do you think about this Colts game in Week 9?
Who's going to be the quarterback at that time? That's Week 9. I mean, that's for both teams. You know what I'm saying? This is one of those that what we think about it right now, and even what we think about it during Week 1, might not be anywhere close to what it actually is by the time it comes to Week 9. It could be two teams that are having a great season. It could be two teams that are really struggling. Or it could be one is one and one is the other, and it could go either way. So this one, I think, is a wild card game, just because there's the Colts have a lot of unknowns as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Brian, what do you think?
This is a nice back to reality, another homecoming type game, which you still can lose, but it's nice after having those tough contests like Cincinnati, two primetime contests in a row. It's nice to get back to 1:00 on Sunday in Pittsburgh. So I'm happy that they called this game the way they did. Good choice, NFL.
Okay, so the Colts, man, this is such a weird game to try and predict because, like you said, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Brian, I'll let you do your prediction first. What do you think about this one?
I gave them back-to-back losses. Welcome back to the win column, Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, Dave.
You know what? Just because I don't know what to do for either team, I'm just like, let's go with some optimism, and I'm going with a win for the Steelers.
I think the Steelers get back to their winning ways against the Colts in this game. But I want to preface that with that. I think the tough games are coming up. We'll put it that way. Now, Dave, do you want to update everyone's prediction so far?
Yeah, because I decided I'm throwing the final game in the last
Okay.
the last, where there's an extra game in the last quarter of the season. Brian had them 2-2 that quarter, where Jeff and I didn't write down your Cleveland one, Jeff, but I assume it was a win.
Yes.
Just because. And Jeff and I both have them 3-1. So at this point of the season, Brian has the Steelers at 5-3. Jeff and I have them at 6-2. Gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And I honestly, when you look at the teams they play, it wouldn't shock me. That they could drop some of these games. We've seen that before. So let's go to week 10. They go on the road. Another primetime game. This is a Sunday night game, week 10. And it's in LA versus the Chargers. The Najee Harris maybe revenge game, if you want to call it that. It's going to be interesting. This is, again, November 9th, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. Week 10 at the Chargers. Dave, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Why does it seem like every time the Steelers go and play the Chargers on the road, it's a primetime game? It just, am I right, Brian? That's happened a lot.
That's been a lot lately, yeah. Because my gosh, it's been 5 or 6 times over the last 20 years, and I was there in 2005 in prime time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've played the Chargers at home a couple of times on Sunday Night Football back in like 2008, 2009. They put this game on primetime a lot.
Yeah, so that's what I find it interesting. I'm trying to think, when we did our predictions, I think did we both put this one in prime time? We didn't have it. We did not have it proper in week 10, but I'm pretty sure that
we did. I did not.
Whenever they played the Chargers, I didn't have it in prime time either.
I was tempted to do so, but
I should have been, because they've done it. I didn't, because they've done it so often, but maybe I should just remember the NFL likes to stick to their regular kind of schedule. So it is what it is.
All right, Brian, what's your take?
All right. This one is one that's hard to get tickets to, because it's you can get the tickets, but you're paying out the ear for it. And I found that out when I tried to get Vegas tickets last year. LA's the same thing. There are a lot of Steeler fans in Los Angeles, and we've seen this being a home game for the Steelers as well. So I like it, though. When you're in LA, you should be under the lights. Glitz and glamour. Roll out the red carpet. Go Hollywood, baby.
All right, so what's your prediction, Brian?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I didn't tell you what it was.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. No, Brian did it right. I hadn't asked him for his prediction.
Oh, I thought you asked for a prediction. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm going back and forth in my head on this, but I'm going to go ahead and give them the win here. This is going to be the tough one. This could go either way.
Yeah.
This is a really tough game.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, I was really going back and forth with this one as well. When I decided, you know what? Are they going to get on? I kind of like to group the games together sometimes. The one before it, the one after, see how they go. This one's really tough. It affects what I do from here on, but I actually went ahead and said maybe this one's a little bit too much and gave them the loss.
I agree with you, Dave. When I looked at the schedule the first time, I said this is a loss. It's just there's something about prime time out there. I don't know. They've won out there before since Ben Roethlisberger retired, but
it'll be a home crowd. But
it will be for sure.
Doug Hodges did it.
Yes, he did. Not at SoFi.
He didn't kill us.
Yeah. So okay, so I have a loss. Dave and I have losses there. So in week 11, they come back to Pittsburgh, another division game where this time, at the time of when God intended football to be played at 1
you
o'clock.
took my line. I was just getting ready to say it. No joke. I just thought about this one.
And
Jeff.
they are going to wrap up their Cincinnati Bengals regular season matchups. 1 o'clock kickoff, Sunday, November 16th, week 11. Dave, outside of what I just stole from your head, what do you think?
That's literally what I'm like. What am I going to say about this one? You know what? I like them being at home against the division opponent at 1 o'clock, but God intended NFL football to be played. That's right. So I like that one of the matchups is where it's supposed to be.
Okay, Brian.
This gives them an opportunity. This is good schedule making. This makes I think the schedule is very palatable so far, and I haven't really seen the rest of it. But I like this. This is, you have a primetime game on the road. You're back at home at 1 p.m. against a divisional foe. Anything could happen. I like it.
I agree. I like this game a lot. Brian, what is your prediction? I think we have a feel for it, but I just want to hear you say it.
You don't have a feel for it. I'm actually going to go with a loss here.
Really?
And the only reason I'm going to loss is because I don't know who the quarterback is. And I don't think if it was Aaron Rodgers, I might actually be going with the win here. But I don't know if this is a 7-3 team at this juncture without Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if Mason Rudolph can have them at 7-3. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is the one that we should think they would win. But there's always those ones that they don't win that they should.
So this would mean that you have them getting swept by the Bengals this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Dave, what's your prediction?
I didn't want them to get swept by the Bengals. That's part of the reason why I went with loss the game before against the Chargers, because then they bounce back and get a win at home against the Bengals. If those two outcomes were swapped, I would not be shocked one bit. But yeah, I'm going for week 10, week 11. I'm going loss, then wins. That's a win against the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't think the Steelers get swept by any of their division rivals. And so since I had them losing to the Bengals earlier, I have them winning this game in week 11. So really, it's kind of like back and forth in terms of home and away. They don't have a lot of two homes or two road games. They go on the road in week 12. They go to Chicago, another 1 o'clock kickoff to play the Bears. And so think about it. They just traveled to LA, then they're home against Cincinnati. Now they're on the road again to Chicago. This is November 23rd. The weather will start to be dicey around this time of year. Dave, what's your takeaway on this NFC North opponent?
Yeah, I want to know what the weather is for this one. I hope it doesn't have to be snowing or anything like that, but I would like to see, because this is the weekend before Thanksgiving, correct?
Yeah, Thanksgiving's late this year.
Yeah, so this is the weekend before Thanksgiving with the Bears. It's always interesting when they go to Soldier Field or whatever it's called. I don't even pay attention enough to know what it's called. Okay, it's still Soldier Field. Gotcha. Making sure. So I know when I predicted the schedule, I had them going to Chicago earlier, but I kind of do like it that it's a little bit later in the season.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, the anytime they play the Bears, it is rough. The Bears can be very crappy, and they lose to them in Chicago. In fact, the Steelers have only won one time, and that was November 5th, 1995, in a comeback.
Oh, not November 5th, 1955?
No, I thought that was November 4th.
No. November 5th, 1955, the day I invented time travel. Sorry.
I thought it was the 4th for some reason. But, I love two historic teams playing in Chicago and Pittsburgh. They were the cities did share teams, even though it wasn't the Bears they shared in 1944, the Pit Cards, but it was Chicago and Pittsburgh sharing that season. This is a great rivalry. Goes back to the NFL, where the Bears have, in the record books, the Bears will always own the Steelers, but when it's in Pittsburgh, it's a much different story, but this is going to be fun. And this is the game I was hoping to possibly convince my family to go to Christmas shopping in Chicago, like we did in Philly last year.
All right, so this is going to be a tough one. The last time they played in Soldier Field, was that the Alejandro Villanueva game with the
It was
the national anthem stuff? Okay.
Yep.
All right, Brian, what's your prediction for this game?
I'm going with a win. We're gonna play it like it's 1995.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I'm actually going with a win here as well because someone said it in the live chat. I don't think Brian can see because he didn't want any spoilers. If it's Aaron Rodgers, come on. It's the Bears. Aaron Rodgers against the Bears. If that's the case, I'm taking the win.
I'm with you, Dave. I think they win this game. We'll see if Ben Johnson's first year as a head coach is good with Caleb Williams at the helm. And so then we go to week 13. Not a primetime game, but this will be a nationally televised game as it's a 4:25 p.m. kickoff.
First
And
one
that
of the
is
season.
with, what's that?
That's the first one of the season.
And that is the Buffalo Bills coming to Acrisure Stadium in week 13, Josh Allen and company. This is going to be a tough game. It's always a difficult game going against the Bills. Dave, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Based on what you think with Buffalo right now, sometimes with these teams that you think that are really good, it's better to get them later in the season because maybe some things happen and they're not what you think that they might be. But yeah, this is one of their tougher home matchups of the season.
Yeah, Brian, what's your takeaway on the Bills game?
All right, I'm very happy with this. And I like what Dave said. I wasn't thinking about that. And because, I don't think you want the Bills early because the Bills are a team that could go ahead and they can start off 6 or 7-0. But I think this is the perfect time to get them. Thank you for not putting this in prime time. I love it that it's not in prime time. I'm fine with a 4:25 game, but I'm so sick of this game being late. And it's been late a lot. But Dave and I did bond and snuggle together during this great spooning incident of 2019. And I tell you what,
is also the Wildcat catastrophe.
Yes, there are a lot of catastrophes. The snow on the way home, everything. I'm good with this. I'm just glad this isn't in prime time. There's certain games you don't want to see in prime time anymore, and this is one of them.
I agree with everything you guys said, and this is going to be a really tough game. Brian, how do you see it shaking out?
Even though I like to be optimistic, it's still Buffalo, and I'm a broken record. I don't know who the quarterback is, and I'm having my team drop to 7-5. Loss.
Right, Dave?
Yeah, I've got this as a loss as well because I think this is one of their tougher ones.
I think this is a loss too. The Bills just are. They're one of the elite teams in the AFC. I just don't think the Steelers are there at this stage, especially when we don't know who the quarterback is. So I unfortunately have this as a loss as well. So before we go to week 14, Dave, do you want to update the?
Yeah, we were all 2-2 in the third quarter of the season is what we had the Steelers going. So that means Jeff and I have them at 8-4, while Brian has them at 7-5.
Now, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're wondering, like, okay, you haven't looked at the schedule in depth and you're listening to us, you're thinking, when are they going to play Baltimore? Like, they haven't even talked about Baltimore yet. Like, what the heck? What's going on? Well, week 14, the Steelers go to M&T Bank Stadium on the road, 1:00 kickoff. This is in the month of December 7th to be exact. And this is always a tough place to play. The Ravens just gave Derrick Henry a nice new extension. Dave, what do you think about this game?
Well, I actually predicted for them to play Baltimore in week 14. I had them playing them at home, not on the road. That's what I had going on with the prediction. This is a problem game because what people might not realize is Baltimore's coming off a mini bye. They play Thanksgiving night, and this is the next week. So they get that extra rest and get to host the Steelers coming off of that.
Okay, it's interesting. I didn't know that. Brian, what's your take?
I get nervous when the Baltimore Ravens lose a championship game And I think they're going to be on a mission. I'm not saying they're winning the Super Bowl, but I think they're on a mission this year. And this always makes me nervous. You got to get it out of the way. You got to go. And so I'm glad this is not the last game of the season. So you pencil this in, you know what's going to be there. So let's I'd rather have the Ravens at home on the back end. So yeah, I'm fine with it because I still don't think it's a brutal schedule. But you've got Buffalo and Baltimore back to back. It doesn't make things easy.
So what's your prediction, Brian? How do you get shaken out?
I'm going to go ahead and go with the loss.
Okay.
But I'm still feeling optimistic.
All right, Dave, what about you?
Yeah, this is, I mean, the Ravens are having a Steelers sandwich here because the week before they play the Bengals, the week after they play the Bengals. So they're the slices of bread, while the Steelers are that team in the middle. And with the extra rest at home in Baltimore. Now, this is one if the Steelers could find a way to win this one. Isn't it so much better when you beat a division opponent and the first time you match up against them at their place? Because then it's really lining up well for you. But in this case, I don't think it's lining up for the Steelers in this regard. I have them losing their first back-to-back games of the season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think this is an L. I don't think the Steelers get swept by the Ravens, but I do think they lose this one in M&T Bank Stadium in Week 14. So then Week 15, the Steelers play on Monday Night Football. They host the Miami Dolphins in Week 15 in primetime on ESPN. I know there's a lot of people that probably think, okay, this is like a get-right game. I think the Dolphins they're not a pushover, although they faltered down the stretch the last few years. Dave, what's your takeaway from this game?
Well, I'm surprised you didn't say this was the James Daniels revenge game or something. But you could say that almost every game because the Steelers lost so many players to other teams this year that it could be there. But now you're talking December in Pittsburgh, and you're talking about being at night. So I do think that does give the home team a little bit more of an advantage. Although I do remember a time where playing the Dolphins in Pittsburgh in December in the snow, needing it to make to the postseason, and somebody stepping out of bounds at the very end. That led to the next week of being like, wasn't the week after that the only game under Mike Tomlin that the Steelers were out of contention for a game? And I mean, I might be mixing all that up, but anyway, even though they didn't win that one, putting this in, I mean, come on, Monday Night Football. When's the last time the Steelers lost Monday Night Football at home too? So this one is, yes, it's a good opponent, but it's actually about one of the best ways you could ask for the Steelers for it to be set up.
All right, Brian.
I'm just hoping there's not a monsoon like that one year. I think it was 2009 when it became a 3-0 game. Oh gosh, that was brutal. And I think that was an early December game, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But I like this. I kind of feel like it's a departure from the murderer's row that they had going into this. So I think this is good. Miami's a weird team right now, and they have a coach that is actually on the bubble. I really think he's on the hot seat. So with that being said, I'm glad that they get this one here because there's some tough teams still coming up, I would assume. And I think I know who week 16 is. So yeah, this is a good go. So if you're going to ask me my prediction, Jeff, I'm going to say that this is a win.
All right. Dave, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to win as well because of that, of just all those things that line up well for the Steelers typically. So, my goodness, I wouldn't even if it is Mason Rudolph. The last time the Steelers played the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh and Mason Rudolph was the starting quarterback, I was sitting in the stands. It was the last game I ever went to with my father because he's not in good enough health that he's going to be able to go to any games anymore. And so I just kind of, well, granted that was against Brian Flores, the whole zero coverage thing. I don't know, just something about it. Miami in Pittsburgh, Monday Night Football. I'm going the Steelers.
Yeah, we talk about we don't know who the Steelers quarterback's going to be. Who knows what the Dolphins quarterback situation will be. Tua has not been able to stay healthy too often in his career. I'll go with the win. They break their streak. and they find a way to beat the Dolphins. Now let's go to week 16. They have a road game, 4:25.
Right before Christmas.
What's that?
This is right before Christmas. Weekend before Christmas.
The 21st of December. No holiday games this year, thank goodness.
Yes.
But still, it's a very familiar field, Ford Field. That's where the Steelers hoisted the Super Bowl 40 Lombardi Trophy. They played the Lions at 4:25. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This was one that, well, here's the thing. Maybe you get Detroit looking ahead, because I find it odd that Detroit and Dallas and Kansas City all play on both Thanksgiving and Christmas. Man, that's kind of brutal. But this is Detroit right before they have to play a Thursday night game on Christmas. But so this is one that they kind of need to make sure they have everything going right for them. I like the 4:25 time, but we know that late in the season that could be changed forward or backwards.
Yes, Brian, thoughts on this?
I really like this. I'm glad it's not on Thanksgiving Day, like both Dave and I predicted. They haven't done well in Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. And that coin toss one in 1998 wasn't the bad one. The 1983 45-3 was really bad. And I'll say this, I'm looking forward to this. I think that they have some good vibes in that stadium. And this is late season. The second half of the schedule is going to be tougher, but this is a nice matchup.
It's a weird one. They haven't played. And when was the last time they played in Detroit?
8 years ago.
And they won that game. It was right before Halloween, and it was Juju had that 99-yarder kickoff.
Where he locked up the bike. He locked up the bike after that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do some predictions, Brian. What do you got?
So I'm actually going to go ahead and say Steelers win.
Wow.
As I hold the helmet upside down of the Detroit Lions.
All right, Dave, what do you think?
The Detroit Lions, they're a really good football team. I know they lost some people, but my goodness, look at what they had to do last year. Yeah, they got bounced in their first playoff game as well. I mean, how many guys from their defense was on IR? It was crazy. This one's a tough one. Late in the season, just before Christmas, going against a very high-quality opponent, kind of screams of some stuff from last season. I'm going with a loss here.
I'm going with a loss as well, but I think it's going to be the last loss of the regular season for the Steelers. A little teaser there with 2 weeks remaining. So let's go to the next game. Back-to-back road games. They go a 1:00 kickoff to Cleveland. This is on the 28th of December. And so they'll be there at Huntington Bank Field. Dave, thoughts on the second matchup between these two teams?
I would have rather seen it than the last week of the season because, the first time they play Cleveland is in week 6. I don't think they'll be mathematically eliminated by that time, but I think they will be by this one. And therefore, you never know exactly what kind of shenanigans they'll pull. But sometimes when they're out of it, this then becomes their Super Bowl. But that's my biggest concern with that one.
All right, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say for this game that this is a good spot for it. You just don't know where this is going to fall on the schedule. Could this be a Saturday game? Could this be?
No, this is not one of the TBD games. They gave a bunch of TBD games for week 17. This was not one of them.
Interesting. So this is a Sunday game.
Sunday at 1:00.
Okay, yeah, I kind of like this. I really like this schedule. I think it's fairly even for. I mean, they have. I think this is the 12th. This is ranked 12th or 9th or something like that as far as the Steelers go, as one of the more easy schedules. So yeah, I'll take it. I like this Cleveland matchup here, and I'll go ahead and throw my prediction to you, Jeff. I'm going to say that this is going to be a win.
All right, Dave, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm going with a win as well, just because I don't know who knows? Cleveland might be on their 4th quarterback by then. You just really don't know what's going on. It does scare me for that reason, because I don't expect Cleveland to be in it at the end of the season. Therefore, that's when they were more scary last year. So, but I'm going to – the Steelers lost in Cleveland last year on that short week on a Thursday. I don't want them losing 2 years in a row in Cleveland, so I'm going with the win.
I'm going with the victory here as well. I think the Steelers are going to start stacking some wins heading into the postseason, not a 5-game skid to end it. So we'll go with the win. And then we finish up week 18. This is a TBD game, Brian, and that is with the Baltimore Ravens at home in Acrisure Stadium. Dave, thoughts on the regular season finale?
Yeah, it all comes down to who's playing for something and who's not. That's going to be the biggest factor in this game. Who needs it? Who doesn't need it? And based on our schedules, this is shaping up to be one that the Steelers need.
Okay. Brian?
I had the last 2 games being Cleveland and Baltimore, and I had I had them mixed up and in the wrong places. So
we were ranking it was road and then home. We just had it at Baltimore and then home against Cleveland. So.
Yes. So, this is fitting. They somebody brought up the fact that they usually don't play Cincinnati in the last game of the season in Cincinnati at all. So that was a departure. I kind of figured it was going to be either Baltimore or Cleveland here. And I'm fine with Baltimore here. The way things have been going with Baltimore, they might be resting some guys, that. And Pittsburgh might be in a situation where they're playing to get in. And I think they go in and I think they win at home to not have that debacle that ended the season last year. So if you notice what I did, I'm looking
at you went the opposite from last year for sure.
I'm looking at 1995. They had a win like their last 4 games.
Yeah.
And they came close to doing that, but they went very far in the playoffs that year. In 2005, they had to win their last 4 games. And they had to win some games that they weren't expected to. And they did so. And they went to the Super Bowl that year. So 95, 05, Super Bowl years, win their last 4 games this year. That'd be amazing. And I have them doing it.
Yep.
Dave, what's your prediction for week 18?
Okay. Here you go. The Steelers are sitting there. They've already locked up their winning season if everything goes up the way Coach Tomlin doesn't care, but plenty of other people do. And they might really need this one to have a better spot in the postseason, things of that nature. Baltimore has a tough game the week before. They play Green Bay, and that's a TBD game. And I bet you anything that's on Saturday. So Baltimore gets an extra day. I wouldn't be shocked if they're playing for the positioning is still in play. Who knows if this is even still for the AFC North? It could be at that point where depending on the weird tiebreakers and everything. And honestly, if Aaron Rodgers is the Steelers quarterback in week 18, I'm probably feeling pretty good about this. I don't know if even if he is a quarterback, if he makes it all the way to week 18. Unfortunately, I have the Steelers getting swept by the Ravens this year, and I have this as a loss.
I've got it as a win. I think the Ravens are going to rest players, and I think the Steelers are going to get a victory at home heading into probably a postseason berth. So, Dave, let's put a bow on it in terms of our predictions. What do we have for everyone?
All right. Well, the last quarter of the season, which is actually 5 games, which is I went Baltimore to Baltimore. We all have different records. Brian has them at 4-1. Jeff, you have them at 3-2, and I have them at 2-3 to finish up the season. Both you guys have the Steelers finishing up at 11-6. I have them at 10-7 yet again.
I think that's right on. Like, really, I think that what you're looking at
and I could see them winning that last game and going 11-7. I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger on everything. And I mean, could things fall apart? You never know when you're going to get the type of like a 2019 season where injuries and other stuff just have it go in such a wonky way.
Right.
But yeah, so we're all hanging right around there.
I do want to add something quickly before we put a bow on the podcast and give our final thoughts. The preseason has been selected. They've already done the 3 games. Preseason week 1 at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that is August 9th at 7 p.m. Preseason week 2 is at home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, August 16th at 7 p.m. And then preseason week 3 is at the Carolina Panthers, August 21st at 7 p.m. All right. So, Brian.
Back to the Panthers in the final week of the preseason.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Been waiting for that for a while.
All right. Brian, what are your final thoughts?
Wait, hold on. We have a super chat.
Oh, I forgot about that. Let me get CeoFan69 gave us $5. Thank you very much. He said, I told my therapist I can't get the Grease soundtrack out of my head. He said, tell me more. And if you don't get it, you don't.
That's a repeat. He did that. You had that one on Let's Ride.
He did that on
Not
Let's
recently,
Ride.
but it was on Let's Ride before.
We still appreciate the tip.
Yes, we do.
So,
you know,
right.
I was in Greece in high school and I sang that song.
I believe
my senior year of high school. I had one of the leads. I wasn't the main lead. I wasn't Travolta. I should have been. All right, let's go ahead. But I couldn't sing.
That could be a
Let's
problem.
go. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks, fellas. I enjoyed doing this. Not knowing the schedule, I thought that was really fun, and I enjoyed it, and I liked the format that we had. So thanks for everybody for bearing with me. This is something for me. I felt like I was going to be more pessimistic than I was. And then I'm thinking, this is the time of the year where everybody's 0-0 and anything can happen. When Dave was talking about injuries, yeah, we can see a Josh Allen injury. We can see a Herbert injury. We can see a Lamar Jackson injury. In fact, Lamar's been way too healthy lately. And that goes against what his past has been, so you never know what's going to one team that is, rock solid and everybody thinks that they're a final 2 team. Somebody's going to get their apple cart upset. And because of an injury, someone's not going to be as good as everybody thinks they are. That always seems to happen. And unfortunately, that could be the Steelers too. You never know. But this is so exciting, and I love it. I've got to say this real quick. I'm not trying to extend this. 5 years ago when we did this, I had to leave my daughter's birthday parade. It was during COVID, and to go ahead and do the show. This year, we got everything done early, so I'm able to do the show. But my baby girl's 16 today, and if she drives anything like her dad, then look out for everybody. My insurance premiums are going to go way up. So pray for me. But I love that girl. She is she's the girl that makes sure that I have my wallet. She's the girl that makes sure that I have my keys. She's the one who takes care of me. If I say I'm still hungry after a meal at a restaurant, she's giving me stuff off of her plate. And I'm like, no, don't do that. She is the kindest soul. So happy birthday, Jilly. I love you immensely. 16 years old. She's my youngest.
All right. It's your daughter. That's how we met, because your daughter and my oldest were in kindergarten together.
Yep.
So there you go. All right, Dave Schofield, final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. Okay. I do have to say, happy birthday, baby girl bad. That's probably a good way to put it. This schedule, it's great to know what everything is, but it's still so much of a mystery with the Steelers going into the season. There's still things to look forward to. Greg and I talked about that on Pittsburgh Standard Time, which you will be able to hear tomorrow morning. It's weird that of doing a show. We had to, Greg and I already had to record because we were doing this show tonight. So you'll get a show tomorrow that doesn't talk about the schedule, which is kind of fun. But I also do want to say this: make sure that if you're interested in all, you can see on the screen. If you're watching, if you're listening, you can hit me up via email, via X/Twitter, whatever it is. I will have tickets for sale. I don't know exactly which ones I have yet, but that's something that I will be putting out there. I know I won't be going to all the games, my brother-in-law or I. So if you are someone looking specifically for a specific game, go ahead and reach out to me and I can let you know how it's going. It's all that's the biggest reason I look for the schedule release, is because as someone who wants to go to games, I want to say, all right, which ones can I do? And who am I going to get to see this year?
All right. I do want to remind a quick programming note. We had someone at the very beginning of the show ask where Shannon and Tate and Big G, where they will be on tomorrow, Thursday night. We just flipped days, and this is what we typically do. And so they'll be on Thursday night, and we'll be back next Thursday for another Steelers preview podcast. In the meantime, Dave, why don't you send us out like you always do?
Hey.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.